What's happening, everybody? Welcome to the channel. Thank you for tuning in. If you've never been here, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. We're going to talk about something in correlation to the Karmelo Anthony case in the killing of Austin Metcalf. As everybody knows, Karmelo Anthony is claiming that he murdered Austin Metcalf in self-defense. And I often tell people that you can't compare it to other cases, because the fact is, not my opinion, every single case has its own set of circumstances. Every single case has a unique set of circumstances. And very little things can make a very big difference inside of criminal cases. So when people compared the Carmelo Anthony case to the Kyle Rittenhouse case, this was absolutely, ridiculous. Kyle Rittenhouse's case took place in the street. It was with a gun. It was multiple people being shot. There were people chasing him. How are you comparing that to an Austin Metcalf, Carmelo Anthony case? Then there was the Case and Allison case. Many people knew that case. People compared it to that. That was completely different as well. These two had a history with one another. There were threats to one another. One person tried to get away in the bathroom, in the school. It's just the circumstances were completely different. Completely different. And so it's very hard to compare. But I do have a case that has a lot of similarities. And it is a self-defense case, and it took place in the state of Florida. Some of you might remember it. It was in like 2014, or I forget the exact year, but I had followed the case extensively, and it was called the Popcorn Movie Trial case. And what this case was, and I'll tell you what the similarities are. Of course, there's differences, but I'm going to tell you what the similarities are, because there's similarities that are very, very close. Okay. And Texas and Florida are very, very close in their laws, in their stand your ground laws, and in their self defense laws. So stick with me for a minute. It was called the Popcorn Movie Trial, and it was a 71-year-old man in the movie theater. They went to go watch the movie titled The Lone Survivor. And there was a 71-year-old man. His name was Curtis Reeves. And Curtis Reeves was with his wife, and he was sitting down in the movie theater. The previews were running. And in front of him, directly in front of him, was a man named Chad Olson. And Chad Olson was with his wife. Chad Olson was 40 years old. So there was a big age difference, a 31-year age difference, a 71-year-old man and a 40-year-old man. And what had happened is the lights went out and the previews started. They made an announcement for everybody to put their phones away. And Chad Olson was using his cell phone, and the light was shining in Curtis Reeves' face because he was sitting behind him. And so Curtis Reeves, the old man, leans forward and asks him if he can shut his phone. And Chad Olson responds with, "Why don't you mind your fucking business?" This is according to witnesses. See, now this case, unlike the Carmelo Anthony case, I can speak a lot better on, because there was a trial already and a lot of the facts came out. See, a lot of the facts haven't come out in the Carmelo Anthony case because the trial hasn't happened yet. The trials only happen on TikTok. Okay, and with certain YouTubers. So there's going to be a lot of facts that we didn't know. Believe that we're going to hear things that we didn't know. We haven't seen the eyewitness statements from the 31 witnesses that gave statements. We haven't seen the video. We can only speculate about what happened. Even though we can say we have a pretty good idea, I'm not going to be the final judge until the trial, when the facts come out. But back to the Popcorn Movie Theater trial. Let me show you a quick video so you can hear about what happened here. Check out this quick video.
What began as an argument between strangers over cell phone use in a movie theater and thrown popcorn turned deadly. Here's ABC's Victor Akendo.
It started as a quiet afternoon at the movies. A father brought his cell phone to check up on his toddler. A retired cop brought his gun. But before the movie even began, an argument escalated into a fatal interaction.
911, what is the address of emergency?
There's been a gunshot at the Comp Theater.
Do you know who shot him?
I don't know. It looks like an older gentleman in the movie theater.
It's been 8 years since Curtis Reeves shot 43-year-old Chad Olson in a theater near Tampa.
You ready to get this started, Mr. Reeves?
Now, after countless delays and appeals, the 79-year-old retired police captain is finally on trial for second-degree murder and aggravated assault.
One of those two individuals brought a loaded firearm into a theater and shot and killed another person after popcorn was tossed on them.
Realization of vulnerability, it's important. We take for granted that we know about getting older. So he looks all right on the outside, but not so good on the inside.
The fight started after Reeves approached Olson about being on his cell phone during the previews for the movie Lone Survivor. After getting up to complain, Reeves returned and the argument continued. Olson stood up, then threw a bag of popcorn in his face. Reeves claimed that Olson also threw a phone at him, something witnesses have disputed. Reeves then brandished his .380 caliber handgun, shooting Olson in the chest. The bullet also hitting his now widowed wife, Nicole, piercing through her ring finger as she tried to hold her husband back.
The gunshot wound will heal. It's a finger. The real pain is in my heart.
And his daughter, Alexis, who was nearly 2 at the time of his death, left fatherless.
Good girl.
Olson's lawyer recently told ABC affiliate WFTS that Nicole's recollection of that day is still crystal clear.
Nothing has ever changed. In my opinion, it's a slam dunk case, open and shut. Curtis Reeves should have de-escalated the situation, but instead all he did was make things worse and continue to make things worse even after leaving the theater and coming back when it was basically done, and decided to shoot someone over popcorn.
The defense has portrayed Reeves as an old man fearful of the much younger Chad Olson. His wife, who was with Reeves during the shooting, testifying about his ailments.
As he got older, did he wear any sort of brace or any sort of
He wore a brace that went all the way around his middle.
Reeves' defense attorney told WFTS that he felt his life was in danger.
You've got to realize that in a setting like this, within fractions of a second, you can go from being alive to being dead.
Reeves has been under house arrest for most of the past 8 years. In 2017, a judge ruled he could not claim defense under Florida's controversial Stand Your Ground law.
We always have to remember that self-defense is a subjective standard, which means we're always looking at the person who felt the danger. What this judge said in his order is that he's found that this defendant may or may not be credible. He found discrepancies in stories, and what he found is that this is not the actual type of incident that the Florida statute is designed to protect someone for.
So now, the biggest questions are, will Curtis Reeves take the stand, and will the jury decide that he acted in self-defense or that he murdered Nicole Olson's husband, leaving her a widow, raising their daughter alone?
Can nobody in the world stand up in a movie theater without having to fear that they are in jeopardy of losing their life?
Thanks to Victor for that.
Okay, so even in the media got some stuff wrong because the media tries to mislead as well. I'll clarify what that is. But now you have a very good idea, and hopefully that refreshes your memory. So anyway, the old man, Curtis Reeves, leans forward, tells him, asks him to put the phone away. He turns around and says, "Go fuck yourself," right? And the old man gets up, walks out of the movie theater to the lobby, tells the manager about the problem, and then comes back and takes his seat. The media has said that Chad Olson was on the phone checking with the babysitter because he had a babysitter back at the house. That's what Chad Olson said he was doing, that he was on the phone checking with the babysitter to make sure his kid was okay. That turned out to be a lie, okay? Because the police took his phone and inspected his phone and sent it to the division that goes into phones and looks for that stuff. And he was on Facebook. That's a fact. So he lied. Not that that's the most important thing, but what he was doing was trying to get sympathy, And the media knew this, but still continued to report that he was on the phone checking with the babysitter because they were looking to get sympathy, right? But he was really on Facebook playing on his phone, So irrelevant to the everything, he's a disrespectful guy because he's using his phone in the movie theater when the lights are out and the movie is starting. He's disrespectful because he told a 71-year-old man to go fuck yourself, right? The old man did the right thing. He went out and told the manager and then came back in and took his seat. And when he came back in and took his seat, now the reason that this is similar to the Karmelo Anthony case is there's a verbal altercation taking place between the two individuals, right? There's someone cursing at the other one. The other one is telling him to do something. The other one doesn't want to do it. Just like with Karmelo Anthony, they say that Austin Metcalf asked him to leave and he didn't want to leave. He wanted him to get out from under the tent. See, there's similarities here. And then when the old man comes back and takes his seat, Chad Olson, the 40-year-old, who's a very big guy, over 6 foot, 200 pounds, 30 years younger, gets up out of his seat, turns around, and he's standing over the 71-year-old man. And he grabs the popcorn out of the old man's hand. He throws the popcorn in the old man's face. And the old man pulls out his gun and boom! And he shoots Chad Olson in the chest, and he kills him. That bullet also hits Chad Olson's wife, and it takes a piece of her finger off. The reason it took a piece of her finger off, this is very important, is because she was trying to hold her husband back. If you're trying to hold your husband back, that means he's pretty aggressive. He's trying to move forward. So the old man was out on bail and placed on house arrest, just like Karmelo Anthony. He was charged with murder. The old man was also a former police officer, or a former police captain maybe. Don't mark my words. But he was definitely former law enforcement. The differences in this case, which are a very big difference, and it makes a difference, is that a 71-year-old man is extremely vulnerable. A 71-year-old man, he was overweight, he's old, he was in a sitting position, he had a 40-year-old man standing up, grabbed his popcorn. When he grabbed his popcorn, it may sound funny, he committed a robbery. He stole it from him, okay? You can't take somebody's property, okay? So he committed a crime by doing that. When he threw it in his face, he committed an assault because he assaulted him with it. But does that raise to the level of fearing for your life and being able to shoot someone? Right? That's the question in the Karmelo Anthony case as well. Karmelo Anthony is saying he was pushed, and so he reacted by stabbing him. This old man was found not guilty. He was found not guilty for shooting and killing Chad Olson. He was able to prove to the jury that he was in fear of his life, even though he wasn't punched, he wasn't hit, he wasn't kicked. He had popcorn in his face, thrown in his face. But he said he had reason to believe that Chad Olson was coming, that the threat still existed, that he was about to move forward, and he believed at 71 years old that he was in danger of his life, and he said if he didn't have his gun on him, he feels he could have been killed. When I first heard the Chad Olson case, the popcorn movie trial case, when I first heard that, I have to be honest, I stuck up for the old man. You know, it's true, I did. Because I was looking at this 40-year-old like, he was disrespectful. He cursed him out. He threw popcorn in his face. He took the popcorn from him. He lied about the phone. I have to say the old man also said that he threw his phone at him. But this was never proven in court. The phone was found on the floor, right? He said he took the old man's phone and threw his phone at him and hit him in the head. but there was no injury on the old man's head, and they didn't test the DNA on the phone. The police neglected to do that, so they don't know if that was true or not. You know, yeah. January 13th, 2014. That's when that happened. January 13th, 2014. But he was on house arrest for like 7 years until the case finally went to trial. The case only went to trial like 2 years ago, and he was found not guilty. So anyway, back to what I was saying. What I was saying was I had originally sided with the old man a little bit because I said, listen, this is an old man. And this young guy got up and was screaming in his face and threatening him and threw his popcorn in his face and cursing him out, right? And I said, and he got shot for it, and then the jury believed it, the jury believed it too. They found him innocent, but now I'm really looking at it, and the Karmelo Anthony case made me look at it. And I said, do I think the old man was justified in shooting this guy because he threw popcorn in his face? And it's hard for me to say yes. Because if we, and they found him innocent, but the law can be different. My opinion can be different than the law. I'm allowed to have my opinion, and if we allow people to shoot people or stab people because they threw popcorn in the face, we have a pretty messed up country. If we allow people like Karmelo Anthony to stab people in the chest because someone may have pushed him, we're going to have a pretty messed up country. So does this mean that Karmelo Anthony should be found innocent if he was pushed? As I said, the facts didn't come out. No, I don't think so. And I'm not sure that this old man should have been found innocent. A 70-year-old man is a lot more vulnerable. A 70-year-old man in a sitting position is a lot more vulnerable than Karmelo Anthony was. Than Karmelo Anthony was. He was, that's true. He was an old man. There's a big difference. These are different circumstances now, but there's some similarities there. And that's why I made this video. I wanted you to see the similarities. And that one similarity is that Karmelo Anthony, it's possible, can get a jury just like this old man had, who doesn't feel that people should get involved in other people's business and physically touch them or threaten them. But we haven't heard all the facts yet. I just wanted to give you a comparison and an understanding on how things can go sometimes. One thing about the police officer is he was a police officer. He carried a gun for 40 years of his life. He had never used it before. He had never even used it against someone when he was in the police department. So it wasn't like he was a reckless police officer. And so you can Google that case. There's a lot you can learn about that case. But I'd like to know what your opinion is on that. And that's really it. I just wanted to give you a little comparison on everything. And I'll post another video soon, guys. I'm planning on doing a live chat within the next week about the prison system and what my life was like in prison. You guys could ask a lot of questions. That's coming up soon. I'll post when it's coming up. All right, you guys have a good one, and I'll talk with you soon.